Okay, this is another story I've written. This is done as a request per Thriller to Rain. This particular story is called Anti-Gravity. Chapter 1. A normal day turned abnormal. Julian Rhett considered himself a rather joyful man. He had led a pretty typical life, unless one would consider having two jobs typical. He was perfectly happy living the life of a bachelor with his German Shepherd Missy. But one day, all the serenity that came from returning to his home, which he considered his sanctuary, would be greatly disrupted. After finishing a month-long research project on Napoleon, Julian had felt as if he had accomplished a great feat. Of course, it wasn't anything compared to bigger projects he had done in the past, considering petty science research on string theory, which he had finished about 4 years ago and had gotten quite a bit of recognition on. When he had arrived home, he had come through the gate to be greeted by his constant companion, Missy. Missy was covered in dirt and smelled terribly of mulch. Julian covered his nose with one hand and petted her with the other. "Yes, girl, glad to see you too. We're going to have to get you cleaned up, though. You smell horrendous," Julian said, not noticing that Missy's mucky paws had gotten his suit dirty. Julian paused momentarily, observing from the corner of his eye that his yard had been ransacked. At first he was frustrated, knowing that the cause was Missy. Apparently Missy had been bored while he was away, but that wasn't like her. "I don't know what's gotten into you recently, girl, but I'm thinking of getting you a playmate so you don't do this again," he said, rubbing her forehead affectionately. Looking around at the devastation, he saw something unusual poking out of the ground. Upon closer investigation, he had discovered what that something was. It was a golden triangle, a bit heavy, but not heavy enough that he couldn't carry it in his hands. In the middle was an all-seeing eye, which unnerved him slightly. He wasn't certain why the eye gave him such an uneasy feeling, but it didn't help much when he noticed he felt as if he were walking on air. A bit surprised, and certainly shaken by the sudden loss of ground beneath his feet, Julian dared to look down. As he feared, he was levitating. Upon dropping the triangle, he came to the ground with a thud. "Missy, I don't know what we found here, but it is certainly not of this earth, and I must find a safe place for it," Julian said as he hustled inside his home, wiped off his Italian leather shoes from the muck and mire he had accidentally dredged up after coming down upon the sod so roughly, and placed the golden triangle on his secretary desk. At least there it was away from prying eyes, but it unnerved him. That large, circular, unblinking eye was still there, staring at him, watching his every movement. It caused him to audibly shudder. "Maybe it's better if I cover it," Julian pondered to himself as he swore the pupil of the triangle tracked his motion. Without ruminating on that topic too much longer, he took his handkerchief and threw it over the triangle, settling down comfortably. But this didn't help matters either. "I just levitated, floated, with that object in my possession," he thought. He didn't know if he should contact his friends that were ufologists or not, since the item was indeed not of this earth. And again he pondered, if he did contact those people, they would probably get involved with the media by inserting their foot into their mouths. That was a bargain he couldn't afford taking. The discovery of the Golden Pyramid was only the start of his troubles, however, and he was about to understand just how troublesome such a strange item like this could be. Chapter 2. Everything in place, neat and tidy. After another day at work, Julian had arrived home to Missy's sloppy affection, nearly knocking him over. I know, it's good to see you too," he said, laughing as he turned his back to her and she backed off. She wanted to play frisbee in the worst way. "I'll get to you in a moment, Missy," Julian said as he opened the back door and went outside, still in his business suit, to play with his beloved quadruped. By the time he came back in to fix dinner for Missy and cook for himself, he noticed that everything in the house was in its place, so straight and clean that one could possibly eat off the floor if they had truly wanted to. Julian, surprised, looked through his day planner on his home computer rapidly, seeing that he had a maid scheduled to tidy up his house. Usually he was the one cleaning up during the weekend, but it wasn't even Saturday. He raised an eyebrow and wondered how this was all possible. From the top, the place where he had originally covered the all-seeing eye, he saw a perfect handwritten note, in cursive. Noticed that you were having some trying times and thought we would help. Be sure to keep this artifact safe. We will come to retrieve it. Respectfully, the soldats. Julian read. He bit his lip. Real, living, breathing aliens! It was almost too good to be true that they would be coming to visit him. Hopefully they wouldn't be like anything he pictured in magazines or what he imagined from reading science fiction novels. Soldats, he thought to himself. Then he realized that he had been commissioned to do another research project considering economics, and the rough draft had to be into his friend's office by Tuesday, or he'd be put on the chopping block. With the difficulty the whole world was facing, he couldn't let his friend Lenny down, or he would regret it for the rest of his life and never live it down. He leaned over and patted Missy on the head. I'm going out to the library, and I probably won't be back for quite some time, my dear girl. Now remember to watch the house and keep it safe while I am gone. Don't let anyone loot us blind while I'm away. Hear me? He said, knowing full well Missy understood. Rubbing behind her ears, he kissed her nose and left to take care of his work. Meanwhile, the golden triangle glowed mysteriously and left him another gift while he was gone. Chapter 3. A woman? In this house? When Mr. Rhett came home, the rough draft was complete, and he placed it on his secretary's desk. Missy was fast asleep in her bed. It had grown dark outside, making it necessary for Julian to turn on the lights to navigate through his house. By the time he had a chance for his eyes to adjust, he saw a woman sleeping on his couch without a care in the world. Thinking his house had been broken into, he nearly panicked, but saw that she was no harm. Still, he wondered how this woman even knew where she lived or got into his house to begin with. He had only recently unlocked the door. There was no possible method of her entry unless she had known the security code to his Briggs security code log, which was impossible. Begrudgingly, he decided to look under the scarf where he was hiding the golden artifact. Again, there was another note that had been left atop it. We have observed that your species hardly ever lives a solitary existence. From the manner of your exchanges with this woman here, we feel you would become well suited to be together. If we have been in the wrong, forgive us. If need be, we can erase her memory of any experiences she may have with you. Respectfully, the soldats. Julian groaned and mumbled, doing his best to stay as quiet as possible. Of course, he liked the librarian, Catherine Cleary, and he wasn't sure how receptive she'd be to finding herself in his house. Not knowing what else to do, he picked her up as gently as he could and carried her to his car. He started the motor and took her back to his house. Somehow, strangely, he knew the way, because he had noticed her address had been written on her day planner that she kept on her desk, behind the help desk at the local library. So I don't know why you decided Catherine would be helpful to me, but thanks anyway, he said, beginning to take her back home. Chapter 4. Awkward Moments. Hold on. Suddenly, the svelte-haired, emerald-eyed woman began to awaken. Julian! What are you doing here? She asked, surprised. You wouldn't believe me if I told you, Julian began, placing his hand behind his head and laughing nervously. He had begun to sweat profusely, as he had often did if there were a rather attractive woman he happened to be fond of speaking to him. Try me, she said, unamused and crossing her arms defiantly. Julian began to tell her what had been occurring. Fortunately, she seemed to be understanding. She was the type of woman who believed that there were elements that could be quantified. Then came the unknown, which humankind had ridiculous ways of defining. This definitely fell into the metaphysical and supernatural file. So these soldats, as they are calling themselves, somehow materialized me into your house? I find it all very illogical, Catherine stated, chuckling, adjusting her black-rimmed but chic glasses. Apparently so. But I have no idea why they wanted to do that. I had been all